And I would, for one, would be quite happy.
Why do you think it is, and we'll wait for that data to come through in full, but that was certainly what he was suggesting to me yesterday. Why do you think it is then that at least one member of SAGE is so worried about these findings around the South African variant that they are saying that this may mean that restrictions might be needed for longer?
Yeah, I mean, I am worried about the South African variant. It can spread more widely if it escapes from vaccine control, and ultimately that may or may not lead to increases in deaths. The other big issue is whether, this is just the first, what we call escaped mutation on the South African variant. We know it's spread, that same mutation has now appeared in the English variant, and there's nothing to say we won't get yet another variant, which makes it even more problematic for us. So, yeah, we've got to continue to. It is worrying. It may well dramatically affect how we roll out vaccines and give further vaccines towards the end of the year. But at the same time,
in what way? Are you talking about sort of booster shots?
Booster shots, yes. Whether or not we need booster shots, whether or not we need to mix and match vaccines to improve the effectiveness of what we've got, whether we need to add, and we almost certainly will be wanting to add this new variant to the vaccine mix as well. But we're going to get better, but it doesn't mean we don't have room for complacency, and we have to be careful and watch what we're doing and watch what's happening with these strains. And also we've got to still follow the advice that's in force as and when we gradually relax out. We mustn't rush it, but I'm not as pessimistic as my colleague from Warwick.
Because I see that there are some of your fellow scientific colleagues who are suggesting that things like mass gatherings, big sporting events, Cheltenham-type events are...
That may well be the case, but I think we do need to see what happens over the next month or two with...
If the current position holds, and I mean, it would be great if it were just this current position, to be honest with you, that maybe some parts of variants give people a mild illness, even once they've had the vaccine. Why would we continue with the measures, even stopping mass gatherings, to cut the risk of somebody becoming quite unwell for a bit, but not requiring hospitalisation?
I mean,
don't do that for illnesses.
No. I think the issue here, though, is what do we do about people who've declined vaccine? And that's the question, because if the vaccine actually stopped transmission, we would get herd immunity, and people who have declined vaccine wouldn't get sick. They wouldn't get severely sick. They wouldn't end up in hospital, and they wouldn't die. But no vaccine's 100%, so it's not. We're never going to get the 100% protection. But where the virus still spreads, where we still get more cases, where it's still transmitting, people who have declined vaccine or not been able to have it for other very good reasons are still at risk. So we could still see surges in the, 10 who, and if that is very aggressive, if the infection is spreading very aggressively, then we will still see high numbers of cases in people who have not had the vaccine, and that is the concern.
Understood. Professor, thank you so much for persisting with us, or at least with me. Professor Paul Hunter, Professor of Medicine at the University of East Anglia, a specialist in the epidemiology of infectious disease. I have to say, just listening to the Professor there, if we get to the point where the vast, overwhelming majority of people have had the vaccine, and yet there are still measures in place that prevent things like mass gatherings, big sporting events, those kinds of occasions that people tend to look forward to because of a worry about the spread of illness amongst those who haven't had the vaccine, I wonder to what extent you might feel, well, hang on, why am I curtailing my freedoms in order to help look after those people who are choosing not to take the vaccine? I'm not sure that feels fair, does it? Is fairness a part of this equation when it comes to keeping people out of hospital? 0345 6060 973. Let's come to your calls. Ian's in South Woodford this afternoon. Hi, Ian.
Hi, good afternoon, Tom. Basically, there's 2 points here. One, which I can never understand, they talk about people coming from Africa that have this virus, that's where it's come from, correct? Why?
Mainly from South Africa, but yeah.
Yeah, but okay. people have gone out there to visit people for holidays or for Christmas or whatever. Why don't they check where the flight was when they flew out? So if they flew out from London to Durban, for example, but they suddenly came back in from Belgium, well, wait a minute, check the original flight out. That would then sort of check where they're actually saying they're coming from. Secondly, as far as it goes with the lockdown side of it, yes, I think we have to keep it in place because, unfortunately, a lot of people, carers and stuff, that work in the care homes looking after the older people, which is the problem, they might be fit enough to be able to deal with the vaccine and everything else themselves, but they could still give it into the care homes because they're looking after the older people who just can't cope with the African variant.
Well, the study that I referenced from South Africa seems to have an average age of about 31. So you're right, this needs to be tested on older people. But if the suggestion broadly is that even if you were older and caught this in, say, a care home, you would only have a mild illness, that ideally would not happen because people would still take precautionary measures. Perhaps mask wearing in care homes for care staff is going to become a real thing forever. But is that enough to require a lockdown? I don't think it is. I think there's a real worry about the balance of risk here getting out of kilter.
Well, I still think until the country and we're looking down to the 20s and 30s are done, I think you just can't take the risk. You just can't take the risk of it sort of carrying on. Yes, we know it's hurting, and it's done it for businesses and everything else. But I think until the majority of the country is vaccinated, then you know, as far as it goes with Dido Harding when she said, I didn't think there would be another mutant. I don't know what planet she was on. As anybody knows that there would be mutations of it all. Right? But that is definitely that sort of side. But I still, going back to the flights thing, it's the most easiest thing. If you're flying into the country, shows your original flight going out.
Well, listen, Ian, we'll come on to what they're doing at the borders or not doing at the borders a little bit later this afternoon. Thank you for your call. 0345 6060 973, a precautionary approach from Ian until they're all vaccinated, even down to the 20s, before we start to lift the lockdown restrictions. I think that's going to be far too late. This date of March the 8th to try and get schools back up and in keeping with what the government has been able to do thus far, that would seem relatively sensible. So as long as they can get testing in schools in place pretty darn quickly, which seems to have evaded the abilities of the Education Secretary thus far. 0345 6060 973 84850 to text. You can tweet at LBC. Do these findings about the South African variant and the vaccine for you about how and when we come out of lockdown? Vaccine rollout in parts of the southeast, including where I am in Kent, across the east of England as well. It's having a get the details from our reporter in Essex. Tom Swarbrick here, 1:31 news headlines now. Here's Tom Watts.
Boris Johnson hasn't ruled out a delay in easing lockdown restrictions because of the South African variant of COVID. Ministers insisted both in stopping serious illness and death from the strain. At least 10 inoculation centres have been forced to close because of heavy snow across eastern England. Police have warned people not to travel, with many roads impassable. The online clothing firm Boohoo has agreed a £25 million deal to buy the Dorothy Perkins, Wallace and Burton brands. It's likely to lead to the loss of around 2,500 jobs at the retailer's shops. Feeling very cold across the country, some longer spells of snow in the east, drier further west, a high of 3 degrees.
This is LBC. Introducing Poker Stars Casino. Bright lights, high pulses, hearts racing, wheels spinning. In. The roulette ball clicks and comes to a stop on the date of your mother's birth. Award-winning Poker Stars Casino. Infinite outcomes. One thing to say. I'm in. Join Poker Stars Casino and play. 18 plus begambleaware.org. Please play responsibly.
At 3, we know there's some things only business owners can do, like expertly juggling being the CEO, head of sales, and decoder of those 2 a.m. ideas on your phone.
Now that's an interesting idea.
But what we can do is promise your business a network with 99% UK coverage at a price that beats our biggest competitors. Search 3 Business Price Promise.
Voice coverage by population down 21. Our price promise speaks a direct business code from E, Vodafone or OT for mobile and SIM only plans. Terms apply. c3.co.uk.
Running a challenges, but right price is more. At Barnes Rofe Accountants, we are helping our clients adapt their business strategies by looking at the best ways to cope with both the immediate and long-term impact of COVID-19. To arrange a free consultation with one of our partners to find out how we can support you and your business, please visit barnesrofe.com. Barnes Rofe, clever accountants for business.
Whether you're dreaming of the holiday of a lifetime or a lifetime of holidays, what you need is dream come true money. Luckily, Tuesday's Euro Millions jackpot is just that. Incredible dream come true money. Euro Millions from the National Lottery. Play on app, online and in-store. Account terms, rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Could you look your family in the eyes and tell them you're going out to exercise, not just meeting friends? That you only ever leave home when you really need to. Do you always keep a safe distance and wash your hands the moment you get back? Around 1 in 3 people who have COVID-19 have no symptoms and are spreading it without knowing. Sticking to the rules stops the spread. Stay home, protect the NHS, save lives.
Talk Talk's winter deals are